Brodes Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into another edition of Schmoozed. And we have a first-time guest here. I am so pumped you have no idea. Some say the greatest tag team of all time in radio history.
Others say that.
Yeah, others say not even close. Tyrone Johnson, what's up, dude?
What's going on, man? I'm happy to finally be able to do this. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to get going.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, we link up before we hit start. I'm going, I miss this. I miss this, dude. Oh, man. All right, listen. Before we get into the action, we're going to dive into all four teams here, do a little smorgasbord, if you will, if that's even the right word. But YouTube channel, Ty Johnson News, is that correct? Is that where we can find you? And I'll put all the information down below.
Yeah. So I'm going to start doing stuff there for a while. There's after things happen, contracts limit other things from happening. So in the meantime and going forward, I'll be able to, you'll be seeing me there at least once a week over there going forward, starting right after the Memorial Day holiday. So I'm excited about that.
Cool. Yeah, dude, I'll be checking in. All right, so let's start with the Birds. I was going to go Sixers, but the tush-push stuff just happened as we got going here. For me, and then I'll let you go, I think it's just principle that I was getting angry about the way the NFL was handling things. It's just a joke of a league, and Roger Goodell is a loser and a fraud, and so are the Packers, and the whole thing. I mean, it's just a nightmare. But how about Jeffrey Lurie going in there with two middle fingers and saying, fuck you? I love it. What say you?
It was bullshit. And the reason I say that is these guys preach that machismo and how they're tough. And they ask all these players to play through all kinds of injuries and stuff. And now they're going to bitch about one play that's such a small percentage of the game. You want to change the rules of football. Now they're going to say you can't push anybody anymore. All these other teams want to be able to push people. Buffalo's Green Bay's last minute adjustments. It was always bull because it's one play. And you want these players to play through breaks and tears and every single thing. And now you're going, but this one play, our players can't stop it. Oh, we're pussies. So it's just something about it just bothered me so much. So I don't think it would have made a lick of difference once the season started. But the fact that there were enough teams to go, no, I'm not a bitch, was a good thing.
Yeah, agreed. It's not about me being afraid that the Eagles can no longer operate as an offense, but it's more about what is right. You know what I mean? And,
right.
I couldn't agree more. And, I'm curious, do you think Sean McDermott has the balls to line up with the tush-push at all next year? Because after they were running their mouth, hey, we got to make sure our players don't get injured and Josh out, he better not line up in a tush-push once next season or there's an issue here.
What he's going to do is he's going to say, I didn't want to do it, but it was for my guys. We had a team meeting. The guys came to me. He's going to make it up. Josh Allen, my offensive lineman, came to me and said, hey, man, we want to do it. Because don't the Eagles play Buffalo this year?
Yeah.
They're going to do it against the Eagles.
Yeah.
Now, it may fail, but they're going to do it against the Eagles. We talk to our guys. What's good for them is good for us. We're just as tough as those guys after they lose to the Eagles. We're just as tough as those guys. We'll see them again in February. Yeah, that's what I think he'll do. Because why wouldn't you do it? If you can do it, why wouldn't you do it?
You're not effective at it. Nobody can do it like us.
I mean, whatever you think about the spot, they lost to the Chiefs trying to do that. In the conference championship game. They lost to the Chiefs trying to do it. But I think he'll try to do it to troll, and then whether it works or not, he'll say, oh, it was a team meeting. It came from my guys. I got to support my guys.
Yeah, he'll probably do something where we went back and did some research and we tinkered with things for the player safety and all that nonsense. Yeah. But listen, I'm just happy that the Eagles were able to get in there. And listen, they cracked the code. I mean, maybe there's something to be said about Jeffrey Lurie's status right now in the NFL.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big-time thing. But how many times do we see something unfair like Roger Goodell go into a room and then it just happens and snaps his fingers? For the Eagles to win this, I think this is almost a bigger story in another way. You know what I mean?
Well, it shows the difference between the haves and the have-nots. And right now, for the first time in our lives, the Eagles are a have. Like, don't get me wrong, the Andy Reid era was nice, but as far as real winning, real dominance. We have never seen this before in our lives. I don't care if you're a 100-year-old Eagles fan. You've never seen it. And when it's like that, people all of a sudden have to show you a certain amount of respect. And then the other part, and I think some of these teams that voted to not get rid of it, is because they believe they can do it. Like the Chargers were one of them. Harbaugh's an offensive line guy from way back. I mean, I know he played quarterback, but he's an offensive line, trenches, run the ball type of guy. You don't think he thinks, please, my guys can do it. So if I get rid of it, so I think that's also the other part. You start to be copied. Like the Eagles have been copying for 1,000 years, and we kind of been hoping the Flyers, we'll get to them, would copy some of these teams that fly around and stuff. Copycat, like, all sports are copycat leagues, and I think there's enough teams that go, not only do I not want to get rid of it, I'm going to actually try it. Maybe you guys couldn't do it, but my guys will be able to.
Yeah, no, listen, that's an excellent point for sure. And all right, so I do want to get your thoughts on this because the draft, I think over the last few years, we've gotten a Jalen Carter or Devontae Smith or, a big name that really, really created some buzz. And when you're drafting 32, it's a lot different. And they obviously moved up one spot. But I like the idea of Jihad Campbell. I know that there's some red flags on the injury front, but, what he can do in theory as off-ball linebacker and also his athleticism being a pass rusher, and it seems they think that he can definitely continue to add to that part of his game. I love the idea of what he can be if he can stay healthy, and I really like the pick. Your thoughts on Jihad Campbell?
I love that pick. I love that pick for the reasons you just mentioned, and I believe that he's not one of those guys that's automatically injury prone. He's a physical, athletic, flying around football player. And sometimes with that comes some injury sometimes when you're flying around like that. I also think he's a departure from the type of linebackers that they've had in the past. We already know that, not just with the investment, with the actually taking one in the first round for the first time ever or since the 70s or whatever. But I think also in that what Vic Fangio's defensive identity is now, which we kind of didn't know with the last several, they've had like Gannon. I don't like John Gannon, but the defense was decent under John Gannon. But all it was get to the quarterback. There was no other nuance to it. What was the Eagles' defense? Everybody wants to get to the quarterback. Well, now you see fast, athletic, physical. And you look at basically every player they have, it's fast, athletic, physical. That's an actual identity, and he fits that perfectly. And that's part of the reason why I like that pick so much, because he's fast, he's nasty, athletic. He does all those things, and he's physical. And I think he'll be healthy by the start of the season. And then he starts. Trotter Jr.'s in the mix. And then when the Kobe Dean comes back, the issue with him is you didn't know if you can rely on him to stay healthy. He's been injured quite a bit. So now it kind of gives you depth at a spot where you've rarely had depth ever. And you actually have a player who may end up being a 10-year starter.
Exactly. And I almost think they look at Zach Bond and they say, all right, listen, last year was great. We signed him to the deal. We know he's got more left in the tank, but we can almost groom a younger, faster, probably more athletic and more pass rush ability version of him that we can kind of use as a staple. But how about Makuba? Because that one's a little bit more questionable for people. I like it. I think you trade CJ, GJ. Now he's on the smaller side and whatnot, but when he went to Texas, it was a lot different from when he was at Clemson, and he can help turn the football over and all. And I think it's almost his job to not lose, but I think he could beat out Sidney Brown. I do think they have that idea in their mind. But did you like the Makuba move? How did you feel about that?
I loved it because it was one of those times where need and probably where their board matched up. Because the tough part a lot of times is you don't want to draft for need, but at the same time, safety was a massive need because I have no idea if Sidney Brown can play. Like here's the thing. If Blankenship, who's a good football player, was to go down, then I think Sidney Brown might be able to fill it at that spot as a box safety. But as a free safety, I don't believe he's going to be able to make it there. So I think it's a need. I'm not so worried about the size so much personally because these guys are so young. Can he get to, he's 180 some pounds. Can he get to 200 pounds? Probably. Maybe not one off season, but he can get to 200 pounds. B-Dog played at 200 pounds. Whatever they listen, man, he played at 200 pounds. If he can get to 200 pounds, he'd be an effective safety. Texas is starting to really produce high-end level guys again, which he hasn't done. Which they hadn't done in a while. Like Texas is back in that way. You got to kind of look at them like Georgia. If you look at the recruiting rankings and you look at the pros are starting to put in, they're that kind of program right now. So I like that part of it as well. I'm all for, quote, competition, but they said the same thing about Quinyon Mitchell, and then we knew what was going to happen week one. I'd be shocked if he doesn't start week one.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I'm really excited for what he can bring, and he brings that oomph. You know, you need a little bit of that nastiness, the snarl. I think he plays with that too, even though he's a smaller size guy. So I like it. And all right, so this is the last thing on the Eagles front. It seems to me, and look, I would have picked up the 5th-year option. I think Jordan Davis does a lot well, and you win because of him. Like, he helps stuff the run. You see what happens when teams establish the run with Saquon. It's game over. So he does that a lot. But I do think that they are asking him to produce more. They project him to be more in the pass rush department than he is. And I don't know if that's in his skill set. Now, maybe he is in the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl. He did get some sacks. Now, they were big blowouts, easy to get to the quarterback when that's the case. But do you think that there's another level in the pass rush, or is he just really good at what he does? It's a good staple, and that's his foundation. Or is there another step in him?
I try to listen to what the coaches do. Like, I don't listen necessarily all the time to what they say. I try to listen to what they do and pay attention to what they do. And the fact that his snap count hasn't gone up makes me wonder if he could. I don't think they just dislike him personally. So why weren't they giving him more snaps? Why was Milton Williams playing more than him? Why were so many guys by the end of the season playing more total snaps than him? If he has it in him, he's going to have to show it like week one, or Fangio's going to do what Fangio does, and he'll play 30% of the snaps, and that'll be that. And he's not going to be in pass rush situations if he's only playing 30% of the snaps, because like you mentioned, he's going to play all the rundowns. Like, he's the run guy. So unless he can play 50% of the snaps, then the answer is no. It's kind of like the fact that Fangio preferred, by the end, he was playing the 4th most snaps by the Super Bowl at defensive tackle, the 4th most. That kind of tells you what the coach thinks. So I want to believe in him. I don't want to. He's a young guy, and he seems like he's worked hard. He's got his health got in shape and all that stuff. His diet in check. I have nothing against him, but Vic Fangio seems to have told us he's not a pass rusher because he'd play more if he was.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And that doesn't mean, because people make that and take it and make it seem like it's a negative. Like, no, look, he does a lot well. I'd pick up the 5th-year option. It's all good stuff, but do I see him progressing? Some guys have skill sets that don't include pass rush. He may be one of those guys, and he still helps dominate, but it's just different. That's all.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Now, let's get to what I really want to pick your brain about, and that's our 76ers. All right? I'll start here. I'm a broken man with this Sixers team. Would you have let Morey run this offseason?
I don't think you had a choice.
Okay.
One, I believe the Embiid extension may not have come from him. And it's also not Morey's fault that Embiid got hurt. And all of it fell apart from that. So I understand people may not like some of the other things that are mad at Paul George and all that. I understand it. But if Embiid was played 60 games, they would have been fine because he's that good. But he wasn't. He didn't play 60 games. He wasn't fine. And then Maxey getting hurt obviously made it to where it was very tough to watch down the stretch. I mean, it was a chore to watch down the stretch. So I don't think you had a choice. But I think he knows that this would be his final year if things didn't go well. I believe that. And some of the movements they've made in the front office, with Jameer Nelson and some of these other guys, talking Elton Brand into staying when he had interest in that Atlanta job, or at least Atlanta had interest in him. I think they're kind of setting up like, we're going to give you everything you can. And I don't think it's championship or bust to keep a job, because that's really hard to do. But he can't have a repeat of what he had last season, because the fans wouldn't put up with it. There'd be a riot. Oh yeah, no. Could you imagine, by the way, a Sixers outsider show during this season? No, it would have been so bad. I'd have been so bad. First of all, I wouldn't have been able to read any of the tweets. Yeah, that's true. That's true. People would have been so angry. I had to look. I got to be honest with you. At the back end of the season, man, I really truly did have to look up who some of these people were starting. They had more starting lineups than anybody in NBA history. Like, that's not just you. They had more lineups. The odds of that part happening 2 years in a row has to be slim. Yeah, I agree. Where you have the most starting lineups in sports history. I don't think that could happen 2 years in a row. I
agree. All right, so I put you in the shoes of Joshua Harris for a second. All right, so you're going to go with Maury. There's really no other.
Well, I believe that Harris, the Embiid extension, I believe came from Harris.
Yeah, I agree. That's like when you give out, Bryce Harper's John Middleton, not Matt Klentak. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I agree with that.
And the Paul George thing didn't work, but everybody liked it at the time. And now they're going back on it like, you know what I would have did? You wouldn't have done a damn thing. What you would have done is sign Paul George and hope that it worked. It's a perfect fit because you got the guard, you got the big man, you got the wing. All that was said. It just went horribly. Like, horribly.
You're right.
It went horribly.
I'm one of those people, man.
It fit perfect. Oh, look, he's a perfect fit. And Tobias is gone. Like you saw all of it. And then it just didn't work.
I'm watching Toby in the playoffs with Cunningham, and I'm rooting for him. And I'm going, what's wrong with me, dude? What's wrong with me?
Toby came up short, too. Not boxing out late in those games. Not scoring any points. Boy, Tobias Harris, you know what?
I know. 2 point Tobias, baby. 2 point Tobias. All right, so how about this? If you're Daryl Morey, would you trade the third pick, try to attach it to PG, unload, see what you do? I know there's Kevin Durant rumors and this and that. Would you go that route? Or as a Rutgers man yourself, do you like the idea of Ace and you get a little Maxey McCain Ace if Embiid can stay healthy? What would you do?
All right. So I always have a rule, though. I have a rule that if you can get Kevin Durant, you do it. I love Kevin Durant. You get Kevin Durant to go with Maxey and Embiid. I'm telling you, Embiid can play 6 regular season games. Once you get to the postseason, late in the game, who has the ball? Kevin Durant. You know who he is. So if you can get Kevin Durant, I'm a big believer you get Kevin Durant despite the age. But I don't know if Phoenix is going to want to do that because Paul George doesn't solve any of those cap situations. They're in cap hell as well. So there's other dynamics other than just adding a young player. If you keep 3, to me, you got to take Bailey because he's the one that might be a star. There are other good players there, but you have to take the swing for the possible star. And he fits a lot of the mold of the modern wing star player. He's not perfect, but he does a lot of things to where I really like him, and I would do that. But if you can get Kevin Durant, I always say get Kevin Durant.
So I agree that I wanted to keep the pick and go Ace Bailey. And, I see a lot of what the experts say about what his game could grow into and whatnot. But since the Kevin Durant stuff has flirted around Twitter over the last 24 hours or so, there is a part of me that goes, listen, you backed yourself into a corner this far. What's one more time? One more time with KD. I don't love it, all right? I'm destroyed. But you're telling me you're bringing KD with Embiid and Maxey. I mean, what the hell? There's a part of me that goes, yeah, maybe I'm pulling for that.
Well, I'm just trying to envision now.
And the league's wide open, by the way. I hate to throw this, but I'm watching. I like SGA. I love Anthony Edwards. That's a fun Western Conference Finals result, but I'm going, there's no LeBron or Steph that's blocking everybody. This thing's wide open, dude.
Right, and if you're going to have to beat the Knicks or the Pacers, if they're like, I guess Boston will be the gold standard again. Tatum got his surgery really quick, whatever it is. Who would they be most afraid of? The answer is Kevin Durant. None of them want to have to deal with Kevin Durant over a 7-game series. All of a sudden, Embiid at times can just focus on defensive rebounding. He can be your third option because you have the KD as your 1, Maxey as your 2, as far as your option goes. That's just, I can't not try that. Now, again, I don't know if Phoenix is going to do it, but if they would, I can't say no to it. But if you keep the pick, to me, you take Ace Bailey, he starts, you kind of know your lineup for next year, and you just go with it, and you're asking him to, at that point, to be a very good 5th option, which is not too much to ask for the 3rd pick of the draft.
Sure. Yeah, no, listen, I agree with you. But then the next question would be, I guess, if it's Maxey, what would it be then? Would it be Maxey, McCain, Ace Bailey, Paul George, and Embiid?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Again, it's wide open. So is it one of those things where you don't know because?
Well, how good is Maxey?
Well, we've had this discussion plenty of times. I think he's really, really good. but he's going to have those limitations defensively. And because we always see these jumps, but at some point, I just don't know how many more jumps you can possibly take. I think
Jalen Brunson would show, though, that Maxey could have another jump.
Yeah,
Brunson was older when he took his jump than Maxey, and Maxey's defense was better last season in comparison. Now, McCain's defense, I don't know about that part of it. I think you can do that. Lineup could be scary. Again, if healthy. If they're not healthy, none of it. It's garbage. But if they're healthy, that's really good. That's really good if they're healthy.
I hope you're
You
right.
have 5 players that can get you 30. You have 4 players that get you 30 and Ace Bailey. McCain can get you 30. Max can get you 30. And B can get you 30. Paul George can get you 30. Not many teams have 4 guys that can get in their starting lineup that can get you 30. The Knicks don't. The Knicks have 3 guys that can get you 30. They don't have 5. They don't have 4.
I'll tell you what. In the playoffs, though, man, what a turnaround. Devon's got to be pumped.
Crazy. And his defense is great.
Yeah.
Now I do wonder how long that lasts with Tibbs playing him 48 minutes for, forever. But and Towns and all that stuff. It's an interesting matchup.
Yeah,
it's an interesting matchup.
He's so I can't stand him. I can't. Oh,
no, I'm not a Townsman.
Yeah, man, I'm not a Townsman either. He's so soft. Yeah, he acts so. He kisses one off the glass on one of these awkward shots, and he's flexing. I'm like, you're the softest bitch in the league, dude.
And the fake voice he does.
He
does the fake voice at the press conference. Hey, we just had to play. That's not how he sounds.
Yeah,
he sounds more like Fran Drescher.
I knew there was going to be something with you and the fake talk for sure.
You can't do the fake voice, man, as a grown man. There's certain things. Like I don't understand a man over 50 years old who dyes their hair.
Just commit.
That's 50 years old, you still it's one thing if you're an actor. But I'm talking about you just a regular person. Like all that crazy stuff that came out of that Diddy trial, one of the craziest things is how his hair's. You were dyeing your hair while you were doing all that abuse? You were actively dyeing your hair? You're 55 years old. What 55-year-old man is dyeing his hair? He's 55 years old. You were dyeing your hair?
Dude, this is
55? You're old. Like, we know you're old. We know when Biggie came out. Like, why are you doing that? That's weird. That's mad weird. I mean, of all the things from that case, there's a lot of bad things. Even if he's somehow not guilty, and I would imagine he's guilty, but if he's not guilty, he's still guilty because why are you dyeing your hair at 55?
This is why I love you. This is it right here. That is perfect Tyrone Johnson thought processes going on in your head, man.
55.
Oh, I love it. All right. And everything going on in that trial. Your takeaway is this man's hair. It's amazing.
He's a monster. Yeah. But also, what do you do? Like think about you, bro. You're a young man.
Uh-huh.
Now think about 25 years from now. Your kids are grown.
Oof.
Okay? Your kids have graduated college. They're grown. So you know that you're now in hypothetical grandpop age. And then you're taking out the box of Just for Men to take all the gray out your hair? That's nuts. That's wild stuff. That is repugnant.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because when I used to live, before Karen and I got this house, I lived with her and her mom at their house. Her mom would ask me, hey, I can't get the back of my hair. She had grace. I would go.
For women.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask
you.
No,
it's different for women.
Okay, different for women. Women can work.
It's the same thing. I think that if you turn 30 and you go bald. Now, if you're 18 and you go bald like some people do, I feel a lot of sympathy for
Kara's brother was like that a little bit. He had to come in early.
Yeah, I met him. Nice fella.
Yes.
Hair. Yeah, a little bit. If you're 30 as a man, you got to just accept the baldness and grow a goatee. To wear like a rug, to me, if you're that age, is crazy. But if you're a woman and you unfortunately wear bald, by all means, wear a wig.
Okay.
Different rules for the women.
I just want to make sure we're all aligned.
Different rules for the women. But like a 55-year-old man supposed to have jet black hair? What the hell's wrong with you?
Speaking of hair, Bryce Harper doesn't have any anymore. How about that for a transition? Still,
I don't understand what he did there either.
Yeah, I don't understand it. You wanted to be a little Nick Sirianni many-man. You wanted that signature moment.
I just don't. I don't understand. It has to do with that weird dichotomy of him being both Mormon and growing up in Vegas. That's how you end up in hair like that, because you're getting pulled in both directions.
It's a good point. Yeah. And he did have some good lettuce when he let that thing rip with the eye black. I mean, that's a baseball player. You know what I mean?
I don't know what that haircut is.
I know.
I know he's got the small kids. It might be, you know what, I'm tired. Because how many kids, like his wife's pregnant again, right, with another one.
Yeah.
So he's going to have like 4 kids under 7. So he might just be, I'm tired.
God
so
bless.
Let me just get rid of this because I'm tired.
All right, let's go baseball here. Phils, how do you feel, just the overall sense? Because there's the wait till October people, then there's the enjoy. Yeah, so I have fear of what we've seen, but it's a long journey and it's summer, and I'm trying to find the balance of I don't hate them, but I have fear, but some things bother me a lot, but it does look better, and I'm confused. Where are you with this group long term?
Well, there's a few things you got to kind of put in the mix. Number one, the starting pitching is tremendous.
Amazing.
Even with Nola struggling, look overall at their starting pitching. And now, I'm not one of these people that goes, Nola's faking injuries. When has Nola ever faked an injury in his life? I understand people get frustrated with him and stuff, but he's been a gamer his whole life. He's taken the ball. I believe that the ankle was bothering him and it affected the back. I don't think that's made up. Therefore, if I'm working off of that premise, look at the starting pitching and then look what the possible starting pitching could be. So to me, you do still have to fundamentally start there with this team, that the starting pitching is part of the reason why they're back in first place again and why their record's among the top in all of the sport, because they get great starting pitching. So that part's real. You can't get rid of that part. The lineup stuff that people are worried about down the road, there's obviously nothing they can do about that right now. That has to be addressed at the trade deadline and maybe not a minute before, because no one's going to try to help you. And you don't want to overpay. So you have that part of it. And then as far as the bullpen, these young starters may solve that in the postseason, a la Kershaw when he first came up, David Price when he first came up. A lot of young stud starters, borderline Hall of Fame or Hall of Fame guys in the case of Kershaw, were in the postseason out of the bullpen when they were young, like with the Dodgers against the Phillies during the Phillies run. They saw Kershaw. So now you have a couple of options now. You could have Abel maybe or Painter both replacing Alvarado in the postseason. So now you just have to find a guy that can maybe bridge that gap a little bit. And Romano, who I'm not a fan of, he seems like he's turned it around a lot. So it's hard for me to be all doom and gloom when I see this many good pitchers. So I get it, but which team has better pitching than this team?
None. No, there's none. You're right. The starting pitching is real. And look, I started out the year, I didn't like the offseason. I was mad at Dave. And I do have worries about what maybe.
You like that Luzardo, though.
Oh, yeah, dude.
You like that move.
He is so good. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So, listen, I'm definitely getting better each day. I'm not one of those that look back and say, well, in May, I hated them, so I'm just going to hate them all the time. They're playing better. They're improving. Yeah. You can even look at strikeout rate, walk rate. There are things to show you that there seems to be a different approach. And now that I'm seeing it, I'm starting to be intrigued a little bit. But I can't just say none of this matters, because I take calls. It's like, none of this matters to October. Well, it's not that none of it matters. There's things that, like play the game a little bit. Ride the emotional roller coaster of baseball. That's what I kind of like to do, even though it drives me nuts. But you're right with the pitching. I mean, I think what Dave needs to do is clearly look at their strengths, which is they almost have too much starting pitching and not enough bullpen. So it's not that complicated. You just got to actually pull the trigger on making Andrew Painter a bullpen piece for the first time or whatever it is. But there's so much pitching that I think if the goal is World Series and let's make this happen with this window of Schwarber on his last year and JT on his last year, and this is where we are right now, find a way to make the puzzle pieces fit, because you have the luxury that most teams don't. If there's this much nonsense going on in the pen, make it happen, Dave. That's kind of where I'm at.
I hear you, but they're winning a lot now.
They are.
So, and you have to also let it play out because of health. Like you just saw what happened with Nola. So, and with Painter, he's going to be a starter in the regular season. Yeah. And then I think they'll put, as long as he shows, I mean, the guy has 4 pitches and throws 97. He's 6'7". I just can't imagine a scenario where he's not in the bullpen in the postseason. And I'm talking about high leverage things like Strom or Romano will pitch the ninth most likely. But I can imagine a scenario where Kerkering's in the 6th or the 7th and Painter's in the 8th.
Could you see Taiwan in a 6 or 7 or nah?
Maybe if he takes to it. Now he's gonna get another start coming up, and then Nola should be back. I think it's gonna maybe, and then also you got the Ranger factor. Ranger has been very effective out of the bullpen in the past, so that's why I think that he's going to wait to put those pieces together. Only because having this much starting pitching is going to pay such a dividend later on, because it makes the games like when those guys are rolling. It makes, I think, the stress level on the squad. Like, that's why they're able to fight back late in games lately, because the starters are keeping them in every game. Starters are keeping them in it. So I think you're right, but I think you don't do that necessarily in May.
Sure.
You maybe get on. You maybe do that after the trade deadline. Okay, I added some outfield bat. Maybe I added this. Okay, now let's see if I can round my team into form. I think right now you keep rolling with it because it is working right now more than it's not working.
Yeah, and I guess you're going to have to add in as well that there's probably going to be it's not going to be world breaking or game breaking or whatever, but if he goes and gets a Estevez type, which is just like a veteran guy who's pitched a lot, like that's going to be added in the mix. Now, he's not going to be the best in the world, but it's probably a Dave Dombrowski feel type of move to it. So there's going to be that in there too, and we'll see. But when they lock in and Stotts and no, the Trey thing. Let me ask you the Trey.
Trey's playing well though right now.
Here's my he just bothers me. I know it's not right. Not right. It's like,
what part?
This dude is just a singles, and then he's getting through. I was told this guy's going to steal bags and this and that. He's been caught more stealing this year, and he doesn't take off that much. And his defense, he can't apply a tag. He just bothers me, dude. But he's hitting 350 something in his last, so I have to shut up. But he just bothers me.
I hear what you're saying.
We saw it live. Him and his wife. He's a softie.
He thanked the in-laws before he thanked his own parents, which is, you can't do that. Like, listen, you love your in-laws. You love them. But you always got to thank the ones who made you first before the ones that made your wife. So that part, true. But to me, this feels like you holding a grudge.
Yeah.
You're holding a grudge over the past. And to me, that's probably not a healthy way to watch baseball. How you watch baseball every day holding a grudge?
It's tough.
Like, that's not fun. That don't sound like that's not fun for you.
I do it with Bohm, too, sometimes.
No. Now, I also do that with Bohm, but that's because he's a waste of height. I'm like that with anybody that's a waste of height.
That's right.
What's the point of being 6'5" and have muscles and not hit home runs?
He could be in Colorado.
Yeah, he had one in Colorado. He has, 2 this season? 3?
He might be up to 3, a whopping 3.
He has 3, and he's 6'5". Let me tell you something. He could have been 6 foot. And there's somebody walking around 5'7" who would die to be 6 foot. He should donate his height to a 5'7" guy that wants to be 6 foot. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
That's what bothers me about him. I don't have it. People go, oh, you hate him. I hate any waste of height. Why is Montel Jordan of This Is How We Do It fame 6'8" as a singer? I'm not asking him to be short. I'm saying if he was 6'2", there's somebody that can use those 6 inches of height. It's a waste of height to have a 6'8" singer.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think same voice, same looks, same everything, 5'11" on stage singing, does it have the same appeal as the 6'8" big?
Damn near every singer is 5'11".
I know, but that's what I'm saying is there's not that I'm knocking the skill level, but I'm saying there's like this added sweetener of that dude 6'8" and sounds beautiful.
It's a good point, but you'd have to change one line in This Is How We Do It in that classic, because they said all they said was 6'8" he stood. Well, now he'd say all they said was 6'2" he stood. I'm not asking to be short. I didn't put him to 5'11".
Changes the whole song.
But fine. But I'm saying, am I willing to sacrifice that song for the good of mankind? It'd be difficult. But I'm saying that if we spread that height out, how many a woman have you? Now you're a married man, but you weren't always. You've heard, and you talk to people. How many women will disqualify a guy solely because of his height?
Too many.
Well, If we had these height transplants, if people donate their height like Bohm and Montel Jordan, it would be a better world.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
What if that 1 inch or 2 inches go to an asshole and goes to P. Diddy, who's now doing bad things?
Well, I can't have that.
Well, then how do we
can't have that?
Figure out where the inches go?
Well, I got a guy who literally works for NASA.
Okay.
He used to work in radio. That's how I know him.
Okay.
So he lives out there in New Mexico now because that's where they do a lot of their development. And he's 5'5". The reason I say that it's unfortunate is because he's on the dating apps. So for one day, he didn't get any traction. One day, he left his picture, his whole profile the same. And he changed his profile from 5'5" to 6'5". And he got more traction in that day than he had the previous 2 years.
Of course. Now 5'5" is pretty small. It's the 5'8" have a rough go. 5'5".
He's a 5'5" fella. Like he's a knight, but he's a good guy. I'm saying he's smart. He stood too long in the brain line and not enough in the height line. But I'm saying if Bohm donated that dude 5 inches of height and he was now 5'10", he'd be a winner.
Amazing. All right. Let's wrap things up here with Flyers. There's nothing I miss more than pre-best show ever. We sat there and ran through like the best Finnish hockey players of all time. Guessing their stats. It's amazing. Yeah. Rick Tocchet was hired. Now, here's my thing. I don't think he's a bad coach, but I don't think it's a needle mover. I think he's just a standard hockey coach who probably lives about 3 or 4 years in one space, gets fired, they move on to the next guy. I just think he's a guy. Now, his resume isn't very solid. I mean, he outside of the COVID year, you remove that because he made the playoffs that year, but it was a weird one.
He got he had one coach of the year. What was that? 2024.
So he has a coach of the year award, and then he has 2 playoff appearances in 9 years total. That includes the COVID year. But coached Arizona, not the best in the world, but your thoughts on Rick Tocchet? And then there's the former Flyer thing, though, that always goes the wrong way.
All right. For a guy my age, I have to be honest, and I love Rick Tocchet. Like, I remember him telling the story about how his family changed the name from Tocchet and the reasons why and all that stuff coming from Italy and all that stuff. Like, I remember all of that. And him going from goon to, like, star player, all that stuff. So I love Rick Tocchet, like, as a guy. All that being said, I thought we were done with the automatically because you're always in the Flyers family thing. So this is so it makes me ask questions like, is he going to embrace Mishkov and recognize he's the face of the franchise, or is he going to do what the last guy did, who went out of his way to basically be a jerk about him every single day because since I agree with you that he probably isn't the Stanley Cup winning coach, that doesn't mean he can't be a positive. Does he move the needle in this way? He played at a high level. He played with players, like some of the best players to ever play, like when he was in Pittsburgh. Like, he played with really great players. Does he understand how to explain to Mishkov what's it like to be a star and explain to the franchise? Because since Keith Jones and Briere are so young in their job still, not that they're bad, I think they've done a good job, but it's about to get more difficult because the tear down part is easier than the rebuild part. Like, once you have to actually start putting the piece together, that's harder. Can he say, okay, this is your guy. This is how we operated at this place and that place with those level of guys. And this is how we're going to get this program in order. And then maybe another coach comes in and finishes the job. Because to me, it's about that guy's really good. I felt like he was held back personally, and he still led rookies. You know all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So can he be the coach that moves them out of what I felt like was a Stone Age backwards thing with Tortorella by the end, where what he was doing was not evil, but it was irresponsible, in my opinion, based on what this roster was like? And do they take the step to moving in the right direction? And I think he could do that.
Yeah, no, if that's the question you're asking, I would say the answer is yes, he can do that. I do think he can do that. That's what I'm saying. It's not a bad hire. I'm not sitting here going, they went with like I think you used the word irresponsible maybe for Torts. Like, I don't think it's an irresponsible hire by any means.
Yeah. Yeah, and just what I'm saying, when he had that, like when he finally said it out loud, where I have no interest in coaching teams like this or getting used to that, like when he said that, he had that attitude there for multiple years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was irresponsible given what this roster was. It's not irresponsible if you're coaching the Oilers. It was irresponsible coaching here to say that. You know what I mean? Like the Oilers shouldn't be like that. I'm just giving an example. So it's like when you have certain stars in place, well, duh, go win. So can he be the gap coach to get from the Stone Ages to the present and then get to the future? I heard about this coach, Joe, at like the University of Denver that I've been hearing this buzz about.
He stayed, though. He did stay, so nobody got him. Yeah, it's David. His name. That would have been.
What was his name? I'm sorry.
David Carl.
That guy. I have been hearing so much about him. So I will admit that I was rooting for them to get him because they said he was innovative and he might be the next one. So I don't think Tocchet is the next Jacques Lemaire or Bowman, Jacques Lemaire, a personal friend, or Scotty Bowman. But I don't think he stinks. And now if he has to be the bridge coach, I can live with that as long as he recognizes Mishkov's the most important thing in this franchise right now. More important than the building, more important than every other player. And then how do we maximize him and hopefully find another one of him?
Right.
And that was not the last coach's attitude at all.
No, and with how, I don't know if the right word's explosive, but they are very loud about this guy is so liked and respected around the league that players will want to come here for him, to play for him. That's almost a shot at Torts, I think. With how much they've obnoxiously really leaned into that, I feel that's the big difference that you're talking about, this like new age. So we'll see where it all goes, man. But other than that, phenomenal job for your debut here on Brodes Media. You kidding me?
I appreciate it, buddy. I appreciate it. You've been doing a tremendous job in all of your ventures, both on the mic and off the microphone with the family and all that jazz. That's just tremendous stuff. So let me ask you before we wrap up.
Okay.
You've been a father for a little while now. What is it? I'm not going to ask you whether or not you enjoy it because you clearly do. Has it been easier, harder, or equally as hard as you anticipate?
Okay. So
I'm asking about difficulty level since your lovely daughter was born.
Yeah. So fortunately, I'm going to say it's been easier, but here's why it is. Brooklyn is so just like, I see other babies. Yeah. We got one running around, ripping things off the wall. Yeah. Bro, she just sits there. Like she doesn't, she sits there. She'll like mumble and talk to herself. She'll shake a little shaker, blah, blah, blah. Well, she doesn't do any. She does things, but she's not a problem child, which means the next one is going to be a pain in the ass. But I'm going to say easier, but it really is because people go, holy shit, you're so lucky. Like, because they're running around, chasing their kid around the beach. Dude, we went to the beach. She sat there for 3.5 hours on a blanket and barely touched the sand.
Just looking at the water, looking at the sun, looking around.
There's a family next to us. The one mom's chasing the daughter this way. The dad's chasing the son that way. And we looked at each other and went, how did we get this lucky? So that's why I'm going to say easier, but that means the next one's going to be a pain in the rear end.
I personally don't know anybody with 2 easy babies.
Of course.
Personally.
Of course.
I don't know anybody with 2. I don't know anybody with 2.
So thanks for bringing this up for me.
No, I was just thinking about it like, full circle everything. So, I appreciate you having me on, though. We'll do this again.
Of course, dude. We'll put the information for your YouTube channel down below for the great people to check it all out. And with that, that'll wrap up this episode of Schmoozed.